Who is the likeliest one that they will assure themselves of keeping?
Well, Chris Godwin, to everyone's point, makes the most sense in a lot of ways from the standpoint that this is the guy that he hasn't gotten paid yet. He's going to look for that big dollar contract. Whether he can get that done now, he could definitely get it done elsewhere. Whether he can get it done with the Bucs is basically their decision on whether they franchise. Shaq Barrett, though, to Lewis's point, makes the most sense from the positional standpoint. The downside there is, though, because he was tagged last year, it's a 20% bump on top of that. So it's really going to come down to Jason Licht putting a priority on how he can replace those guys if he potentially loses them. I think they'll ultimately tag Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin, who is a 24-year-old receiver, so he hasn't made the huge money out there yet, and he is one who people will be throwing money at. But, Mike, we all just sat here and watched the Buccaneers win a Super Bowl primarily because that defense was so good. So as you're making these decisions, are you prioritizing the defense?
Absolutely. I would try to get Shaq Barrett done to a long-term deal, bring Levante David back, hopefully Ndamukong Suh. And I love Chris Godwin. I agree with Lewis and Jeff because he has versatility. But if he has to graduate, we've already seen them manufacture other players on offense, and maybe it's Antonio Brown back on a one-year deal. And while I love Godwin, you have to get that defense fortified. That gives you the foundation. Tom Brady can make up for the other end on offense.
You know, Lewis, it's an interesting question, and it's one that sort of goes throughout the league. But how are you valuing a wide receiver when you have a quarterback the stature of Tom Brady, who sometimes makes all sorts of players look like they're stars? You know, how significant is it to you to make sure you keep this one receiver?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a tough situation, but I think because of where Chris plays in the context of this offense, and because when you're looking down the road about what's the next best alternative, and you look at how strong the draft is at wide receiver, especially in the slot at the slot position, there are alternatives that you feel as though you could bring in, and obviously aren't going to be, right off the bat as productive as Chris Godwin is, because you have to give the man his respect. He is one of the very best at playing inside in their offense. But there are alternatives. As far as the defense is concerned, when you look at the composition of their outside linebacker designated pass rush position, Shaq Barrett and JPP are really it. And JPP, as good as he is getting older. Shaq is right now in the prime of his career. You have to make it a priority to make sure that the side of the football and the position in particular that drove the bus in the Super Bowl in particular for us to win it, and that's not taking anything away from Tom Brady, is the position we have to take care of. It's the position that every team is trying to take care of. Guys who can hunt quarterbacks down and change the course of games by closing them out. Shaq Barrett is one of those people. You have to make sure he is in the fold.
And quickly, Jeff, I asked this question with a little bit of a smile on my face. Which general manager is making these decisions in Tampa Bay right now? The one in the office or the one who wears the number 12?
You joke, but that was literally what was on my mind. If I'm Jason Licht, I know this relationship between Jason Licht and Tom Brady. It's incredibly strong. It's actually incredibly healthy. And in this situation, it will not surprise me at all when Jason Licht goes to Tom Brady and says, how much does Chris Godwin mean to you? That could dictate the ultimate decision here.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's not the one he threw the trophy to over the water. You know, sometimes you watch, they say, who gets the rose? Who gets the trophy? We'll see who gets the Lombardi trophy next year. All right, Jeff, let's run the hurry up. A bunch of other news out there, including Teddy Bridgewater. What's the deal?
Well, look, Teddy Bridgewater unfollowing social media accounts in Carolina, and we know in 2021, that's exactly how you show your distaste for the organization. Carolina Panthers have been flirting. They went after Matt Stafford. Deshaun Watson now on their radar. It's not making Bridgewater very happy. Ultimately, though, this is going to be a matter if they can replace him. If not, Bridgewater, I think, stays in Carolina. Another guy looking for a home right now, J.J. Watt, has a great tweet basically being questioned on when he's going to sign. He says, I scroll through DoorDash for like an hour before I pick a restaurant, man. You're going to have to give me a second to choose a new team and city. And why is that important? It's important because the Houston Texans, if they afforded him anything in terms of a benefit, it is that they released him at a time in which he can play this market, he can be patient. Nothing's going to change between now and a month from now. Kenny Golladay, Lions wide receiver. We talked about the franchise tag. This is one of those guys we should be watching today, specifically because the Lions have a plethora of receivers that are destined for the free agent market. If they want to give Jared Goff a go-to receiver in this offense, Kenny Golladay with the franchise tag makes the most sense. They want to get a long-term deal done here, but this is one of those guys we should be watching for early in this process to potentially get that tag.
Yeah, receivers in the middle of a lot of this with Godwin and Robinson and Golladay. We'll keep a close eye on that. Tons of football on this video. I mean, once and for all, the fact that we are being told that as we arrive at this place again, they are no closer to making a deal, it seems, than they have been at any other stage in the process. What does that say to you, Lewis? And what does it mean? What does it tell us about what's going to happen?
Yeah, what it means is to me that they just don't feel as though that Dak truly is in the same conversation as the Patrick Mahomeses and the Deshaun Watsons and the people who we go on shows all the time and talk about as being transcendent, generational difference makers, because they're not willing to go ahead and do whatever it takes to go ahead and get their quarterback in the fold and then fit everything else around the structure of his contract. They're just not willing to do that. And that's just mind-blowing to me, especially, I've seen Dak play his entire career. So what did I do just the other day, a couple days ago? I went back and just started watching some of his best throws and really watching some of his worst throws and just watching him throw the football and execute within the confines and context of this offense. And it's just, I don't understand what else it is that Dallas could know that we don't know as far as his performance on the football field or what we know about Dak off the football field that would give them pause to not go ahead and make sure that they do everything they can from a contract negotiating standpoint and a future cap planning standpoint to get this done. I don't understand what the hang-up is. If it's the number of years, I don't understand why they can't go ahead and make some kind of concessions to make sure that this deal gets done. Because what he brings to the football field this year in particular, when he wasn't on the football field, spoke volumes to all of us, and it had to speak volumes to them too. So yeah, I think the exasperation that I hear in your voice, Green, and when you talk about this is the same one that everyone across the country is going, how in the heck are we here at this point again?
And Jeff, I mean, that's what we keep being told, is that this comes down to the years. Like they wanted 5 years and Dak wanted 4 years. They're allowing the entire franchise to hang in the balance over that discrepancy. It just doesn't compute in my mind, Jeff, but that's what I keep being told is the holdup.
Greeny, and that's what makes this so much more complicated this year than it did last year and the year before that, because Dak Prescott wanted 4 years, not 5 last year. The Cowboys wanted him on a 5-year deal. So what happens this year? Does Dak say, hey, look, the clock's still ticking. Now it's 3 years. Now it's a 3-year deal. I mean, so how do the Cowboys handle that? To me, it just feels like the further away